Evening. My name is Marisa Ramirez and I'm an English instructor at St. Philip's College. We are a historically Black college and Hispanic serving institution on the east side of San Antonio. I want to thank you for joining us on this journey of celebration and exploration as we commemorate the lives and works of two very important African American writers, Toni Morrison and Audre Lorde. Before we begin and welcome our performers tonight, I'd like to thank the Office of Student Life, the Department of Communications and Learning, the Institute of Creative and Communications Arts, and Books in the Barrio for their continual support and labor. Tonight's event will feature the performances of three very talented poets: San Antonio's first African American Poet Laureate, Andrea Vocab Sanderson, Jessica Mitchell, and Kasaundra Hamilton. We will then end the evening with a roundtable discussion around the legacies of both Toni Morrison and Audre Lorde. I'd like to open tonight's event with a few words from Toni Morrison from a piece entitled "No Place for Self-Pity, No Room for Fear." She writes, "There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal. I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is also critical to refuse to succumb to its malevolence. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art." And with that, I'd like to introduce our first performer. Andrea Vocep Sanderson is a San Antonio native. She serves as a teaching artist for Gemini Inc. and is an artist in residence with the Carver Community Cultural Center. Her debut book is entitled "She Lives in Music," and her music is available on all music streaming platforms. In 2020, Vocab became the first Black Poet Laureate of San Antonio, and she will remain serving in this position until 2023. Please help me welcome to tonight's event, Andrea Vocab Sanderson.
Hey. Good evening. A pleasure to be amongst you all and see so many people here already to celebrate all this beautiful womanhood that we are gathered to speak to and things of that nature. It's been a crazy month. It's been a cold month, but we hope to warm your heart with all this poetry that we're about to give you. Is you ready for this poetry? All right. I'm informal and sometimes formal. I'll switch back and forth between it, just depending on how I feel in that hot second. So I'm going to start off with an Audre Lorde poem. It's called Recreation. And I think that everybody needs a little sexy and a little bit of what's this word? This it's like sensual and beautiful. And I felt like I thought, why not bring this energy up front to where we live? Because we're going to dig in and talk about a lot of different things tonight. So, recreation. Coming together. It is easier to work after our bodies meet, paper and pen. Neither care nor profit whether we write or not. But as your body moves under my hands, charged and waiting, we cut the leash. You create me against your thighs, hilly with images, moving through our word countries. My body writes into your flesh the poem you make of me. Touching you, I catch midnight as moon fires set in my throat. I love you flesh into blossom. I made you and take you made into me. That's that piece. Let's switch back so I can see y'all's faces and I'm gonna go into my poems. So, what a word feast just there alone, right? I'm gonna do this poem. It's at the beginning of my book. I wrote a book and released it on Valentine's Day last year. So we just passed the 1-year anniversary. I should have been talking about it on social media. Did no such thing. Where was I? What was I thinking? But this poem is called Fire Fruit. And I thought it was cool when I wrote it. But then this lady, I had put it on poster and this lady was like, this line keeps jumping out at me. I really love that line. And I felt like it was apropos to come like backdoor recreation with Fire Fruit. Give me an artist whose life hasn't been spoon-fed, who had to scrap for bread, dang near fought from the dead. It's been said that we write our best when we've emotionally bled. So we have been led down a path to pain, to spread our hearts out on a canvas of life. Gobble up all the turmoil and strife. My sorrow is ripe for the picking. Now that's a new type of strange fruit, plump with nectar, bittersweet juice. Who made you feel it deep within? Who brought the connection that lured you in? Whose web spins and when you're in, you don't struggle to be free? Who is it, baby? Who is it, baby? Was it Sarah Vaughan or Ella Fitz? Was it Nina Simone with her pouty lips? Or Shaka Khan, Patty, Miss Mahalia or Janice, Sade with her hypnotic hips? Tell me, whose fruit have you bitten? All these ladies got my kryptonite. Every time they step to a mic and at night when I can't clear my head, can't calm my heart, their voice is the torch from a subtle spark. My dark can't hold them, but my belly can. I eat their fire fruit and I understand. I swallow the pyrrhate and my tongue is ignited with their tune. I eat their fire fruit until I am consumed. That's that piece. Sometimes only music can soothe that savage beast within when you're hurting and you're feeling, sometimes even when you're elated and happy, you have to have the right song that speaks to where you are in that moment. And kind of like the idea of how we kicked it off with Girl on Fire, because I feel electric. I feel like I'm on fire, especially with my girls with me, Jess and Cass. Y'all are in for a treat. Y'all don't even know what's about to happen in your life unless you're in their family or fan club. You know what I'm saying? So this next poem, I really feel like it speaks to Audre Lorde and a lot of the things that she says. And we're gonna dig in later when we get into the discussion roundtable stuff. But I think you'll understand pretty much right away why I selected this piece and how it's inspired by her work. It's called The W's of Womanhood. Warrior armed with praying hands, using spiritual warfare, woven, worn like wool cloak, wound tight like clocks with new springs, a weapon with a polished pistol and garter belt, whimsical as a giggle on lips, wickedly wise we've been conjuring since ancient times, wealthy. We never run out of resources. We somehow have the know-how to make do. Wishful, hoping and faithful, we store this bounty in our bosom. Woke to the struggle and acutely aware of the circumstance, wired and live, electric currents fluminous throughout this body, and oh, this body. Waves of heat radiating over womb, the warmest, softest heaven, weeping for everything lost and accounting for everything kept. Wounded, whether gaping or sutured, things are composed and everything reeks of bleeding scarlet dignity. Watchful and tracking every movement with intuition and piercing pupils, eyes darting like a feline in the shadows. Work wears on youth, whittles it down to shavings on the wooden floors of time. Every wrinkle is characterized by virtue gained. We are washed in this water as we rinse this blood from our legs, wrap our heads to preserve our thoughts and shield our glory, brighter than a red giant. We are just a dying star that has fallen to earth in radiance. Yes, the stars are dying to become a woman. The dust of the atmosphere is bursting through the universe within me. I am a woman, a supernatural force of cosmic power. There's that piece. You're probably wondering what I'm drinking. This is a can of what's called liquid death. It's water, it's sparkling water, but it's called liquid death, because you're killing your thirst. And as women, we cannot be thirsty. We gotta hydrate all day. Stay hydrated. I think it's cool to follow that poem with this poem. It's called Beautiful Creation. And let me know when I have like 2 minutes left so I can wrap it up, because I talk too much and I will just keep talking. Sorry. Beautiful creation. It's about our frequency and our energy. I attune to 432 megahertz. Create God's work in a kente skirt, blurt out truth to attract virtue. The composition of intuition seeks harmony in a prism of blue. I'm trying to feel the vibe from you based on your resonance. Let love proceed from me and establish precedence. It's truly a gift to be present, unwrapping my frequency real time, fully aligned, becoming aware, giving thread to this tapestry, shedding my soul and my light bare. We can share the best parts of our art when we care. Kiss the concentrated self, feel the trembling there. Let the negativity crumble. I do not digress. I use every breath to needle press this spoiling material into substance. Every particle of my subtent supports the arc in my wavelength, giving strength to my vibration. Fortify the fibers of my soul. Physics, examine it. Ain't that a beautiful creation? We are all just oxygenated vessels, couriers of electricity and impulse. Our heart rate pulsates to the rhythm of respirations, palpitating, palpitating. We are all breathing the same airwaves, particles of energy. We are all taking in the same sun rays that sustain life, absorbing light. Let the magnetism draw you in, float to you like hydrogen, like electrons orbiting, cosmic as a space station. And again, I ask you, ain't that a beautiful creation? So I'm gonna do this last one. Thank you very much for the snaps that I see. Thank you for the love that you all give. I have not read what's in the chat, but after I finish, I'm gonna scroll back and read what's in the chat because I got my mouse tonight. Like me and laptops and trying to scroll. It's the whole thing, but thank God for mouse. Mice, mouses. Okay, let me get through this. I can't perform this poem because I feel like when I wrote it, it was like a conversation that was happening in my head. And I was just like feeling some type of way about a lot of things. So yeah, it's probably just like a rant that might sound in some ways poetic. It might not be. But anyways, here we go. It's long, so you get this long piece. Here I am, trying to affirm the inner beauty and express it in an outer manifestation. Here I stand trying to filter out all that is toxic and simultaneously not get caught in any caustic cycles of depression, oppression, or microaggressions, for there is a warfare being waged against my womanhood. There is a conflict being waged against my Blackness. I am told from the church house to the White House that I must keep my spirituality and ethnicity separate from my religious practices and from my voting ballot. I am being told to vote my conscious morality first, but my God isn't a racist. I said, my God isn't a racist. He doesn't think that Orthodox Christianity and the Jewish religion are the only things sacred, that those beliefs aren't the only ones worth being protected. That's not to say that all beliefs are the same, but we should all be respected. Free will is our God-given right. And with that said, my God isn't really all that concerned about my patriotism. For a country that has a constitution that needed to be amended to consider me a whole human being, not property or 3/5 a citizen, Christ isn't fazed one bit about my disconcertedness for a country that has law enforcement systems that incarcerates my people and gives them harsher sentences for the same crimes committed by other races, for agencies that inflict brutality on my people at a higher rate. So go ahead and excuse your dogmatic self-righteous attitude while I am offended. There will never be a better place or a better time to discuss my current state of mind. There is a discrete warfare being waged against my body at all times, from my barren womb that I can barely afford healthcare coverage to heal, to the laws that need to be repealed because they are not in place to protect a woman against rape, violence, or hate crimes. There is a battle being fought against my very sane and stable mind that tells me that I am a mad Black woman. I am too brash, offensive, lascivious, embarrassed or demoralized anytime I step outside of your box. I should draw lines around and within. But your legislation doesn't identify with my needs as a Black woman. I am being corrected like a double negative. I must watch Black women in the media being compared to gorillas, being called masculine or being muscular for being muscular, that our natural hair is unprofessional, our culture is being appropriated by others, and only then is it called special. When did we first see this? It was when we first saw this, it was called different and interesting and unacceptable. At times we have self-affirming celebrations and they are deemed radical or too exclusive or reverse racist. We are told that our pedagogy is a waste of time and our aspirations and placement is a waste of space and our narratives are invalid or historically inaccurate. I am tired of it. I will no longer covet the beauty standards or approval of other ethnic groups. I will no longer tolerate the misogyny in my music or the abusive behavior towards women with vernacular that is characteristic of brutality and violence. You want to smash, you want to bang. If your mother is the only Black woman that you can respect, then you can step off, my brother. Don't expect me to defend you or support you if you perpetuate hate against dark-skinned women, full-figured Black women, or any other group of women you deem not up to par. You are not perfect, and neither are the women you left us behind for. I will always adore my brethren. I am not wrong to expect the same from them. I will not let the world condemn me for being a feminist or a womanist. I will not let anyone stigmatize my Blackness. My words are all the affirmation I need as a catalyst to manifest my inner light and my inner greatness. My excellence is my weapon against your warfare on my womanhood. All right, that's all I had to say. Thank you for the snaps and the claps and the love. Thank you, everyone. It feels good, even though I said I don't need the validation, but it feels good to see people that are not Black clapping and snapping for that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Vocab. Wow. Thank you for sharing your words and your passion and your energy. It was truly, truly amazing. Now, what a setup for our other two performers. Help me now welcome Jessica Mitchell. She is a poet, performance artist, and mental health clinician in the state of Texas. Also known as Jess Mahogany, she merges her passions and professions with an aim to edutain as she grows within her own crafts. The arts are her craft for helping and healing. Jess, welcome.
Thank you, Marissa. And hey, everybody, thank y'all for coming out. We have a packed house tonight, so to speak. Oh gosh, I'm so nervous going after the one and only first Black Poet Laureate of San Antonio. Like, how cool is that? How freaking cool is that? Oh my gosh. So I'm up next, and we are paying, tribute to Toni Morrison and Audre Lorde. And so for my first piece, I am doing a Toni Morrison piece. This is called The Perfect Ease of Grain. And then I'm going to lead in with the rest of my pieces, which are all talking about, just some of our own struggles and perils and the things that we kind of go through and things that I want to kind of bring to light to the community. So I hope that you all enjoy. I'm looking forward to your comments and all of that. So let's get into it. So this first one is The Perfect Ease of Grain by Toni Morrison. The perfect ease of grain, time enough to spill the flavor of a woman carried through the rain. Honey talk tongues, down home dreams, a rushed by shapely prayer. Evening lips part to hush questions raised at dawn. The melon yields another slice. Fingers understand. Ecstasy becomes us all. Red cherries become jam. Deep, juvenile sleep. A whistle trace. White shorelines in green air. Welcome doors held open when goodbye is so long. The perfect poise of grain. Time enough to spill the flavor of a woman remembered on a train. How soothing and is that? Like, I don't know, y'all. I love that poem. They wanted us to do one from Toni Morrison or Audre Lorde, and I gravitated towards that one. So I hope you all liked it as much as I did. And now to my own original pieces here. The first one that I'm gonna do for you all is called Illusions. I wrote this one back in 2016, and I think all of my poems, you know, I write them at a certain time, but it's crazy to me how relevant a lot of this stuff still is. It's crazy and it's a little saddening as well. So I'm gonna get it. I think that's kind of like the theme of my poems for tonight. But I still hope to uplift with everything. So this one is called Illusions. And suddenly it stopped, clothed in calmness, creating the illusion of peace. But cities, people, minds beleaguered with thunderous disdain, still threatened by a society with impending, simmering hatred, were ready to fall. As torrential as a civil storm, flooding hearts with contempt, even when the tears failed to fall, and when supremacists covered puddles with colorblind cloaks of equality, even when there were years counted between the lightning and the thunder, the whips and the bullets, the storm was still not over. Tracked with sophistication, strategy, and yearnings for an answer, turbulence was continuous, caused by those excited by the danger and those simply intrigued, perhaps perplexed by lack of understanding. Despite decades of research, there was no certainty other than its inevitableness. Watching history grow up, maturing yet more dangerous because of the subtlety of presentation, no matter how carefully it was examined, now storms look like they could be taught, tamed, like they could learn to love and have regard for the damage they are able to cause. But then lightning struck again. I guess weather is never more alluring than when it pierces through the darkness, but is anything when the canvas isn't as unique as when it's black? Thunder bellowed like gavels of injustice, and then the rain, in which some gladly danced. Others pretended not to, but played the tune titled All Lives Matter, while watching the torrent of tears created by the tornadoes of despair, with the hell-shattered homes of the New Yen, wondering when and how reparations would come from a cause that created damage so naturally. Perhaps those who perpetuated the inclement weather knew better than those who wanted sunshine. They understood there need be a balance, but somehow had lost regard for life. Ironically, allowing seeds of souls to plant, sprout, and grow, to reincarnate the arc of the moral universe, long but bending towards justice, clothed in calmness, creating the illusion of peace. That's that piece, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This next one that I have, I think it kind of, mirrors what Ms. Vocab just spoke about her last piece. It kind of has some reflections of her same sentiments in it. And I think that speaks to our overall experience and how much it might not be listened to. So I am glad that you all are tuning in tonight to actually give us a listen. So this one is called The Uncried. It was like the sound of a whip, whistling through air, cutting through skin, singeing with each contact. You could hear it if you knew what to listen for, see the scars if you knew what to look for, and I did. Heard it floating over the deep sigh she gave, the rolled eye that saved her from using her venomous words, but forget what you ain't heard, she still said it. It rang loud in the disrespect of elders. Heard it through the lips smacking the talk back in the tone. Read it through the spinal Olympics that had her neck hula hooping, all that attitude, just begging to be put in her place. So at least then she knew she had one. I know that language. Often spoken in bladed tongues that were sharpened in front of the window pane she sat at waiting for daddy, for his promises, to take her place as daughter and him to realize he had one. Instead, he was her first lesson in lies. The reason she always fought to keep it real, all the while hiding the pain she feels, but I interpret the language unspoken. Read the apostrophe in her cocked hip like she balancing the world on it, feeding it just for it to spit up on her, teaching it to love everyone but her, and they still taken from her. trying to convince her it's a wonder she has anything worth taking, hoping she doesn't realize she is the only thing worth taking, but somehow she knows it. I see that in the whip of her fro, the snap back before she snaps at the owner of the hands who tried to touch it, the hands that don't yet understand why it's not okay to pet Black people, the same hands she had to protest against on why it should be okay to wear her hair the way it grows out of her head, those hands that want to ban it on her, vogue it on them, not knowing she got hands too. They talk a lot between the spaces left from not 2, not 3, but 5 hand clap emojis on Facebook threats about gun clapping. Between all that capping, I read it. The SOS set ablaze from only being recognized when she responded with something they could call angry to their exhausted, when she too was just exhausted, just violated, just trafficked, then charged with having the nerve to defend her womb just because she did it on his rape break, made just another example of how abusers gentrified the compassion for Black victims. They moved in on her innocence with cement upon destruction, relocated her back to that dark place where uncle or cousin or mama knew man was demon, mama was just ghost, where no hero comes for her. When the boogeyman is every man, it's no wonder she speaks fear, but I recognize a language spoken by someone you were never even trying to hear, but I heard it. And it sounds like suffering, like neglect, like the struggle of trying to get the noose off the neck, the racism out of America, the attack off of Black women. It sounds like the impossibility of trying to break through this when she's still broken from that, like a dare to love her when she struggles to get sleep out of eyes, body out of bed, mind out of misery, but somehow she does, while continuing to struggle with her trauma, having to share identity with the angry Black woman, and the angry Black woman being every Black woman without a smile, without an olive branch, without an apology for all the times you got in her way, tried to caricature her portrait, turn a whole set into a piece, a document to a memo, abbreviate her sentence, but I heard her refusing. All while trying to learn healing on her own, she spoke up in what you would call defiance, but you aren't hearing the bigger picture, aren't seeing what she has to say, but it's all in there. The pain, the cry for help, the inevitable. When I could hear it, it was like the sound of a whip. Thank y'all. Let me collect myself, y'all. Sometimes the stuff just really kind of gets to me. And I will go ahead and say that's one of the reasons that I do write. You know, I write to get it out. I write for healing. I write to let people know that, you know, there's people out there who understands, you know, that we're not all alone in this. And so I do hope that, you know, these words, you know, just kind of touch people, the art that just kind of touches people. So that was called The Uncried. And I think it talks about, it kind of speaks to just how we are often misunderstood for having emotions. And no one thinks about why we have emotions like the rest of the world. And I really want to get that message out there, to just pay more attention, to just have a little bit, just a mustard seed more of compassion. So that was that one. Ms. Vocab said something in another one of her pieces. I was like, okay. She talked about, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something about writing, like just writing, how great the rightness comes from, I guess, like pain, or when it's hurting, or something along those lines. And so that's what my next piece is kind of about as well. This one is really fresh. And I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and try this one tonight out as well. So this one is called Greatness in the Pain. And I think this is one of my newest pieces. So bear with me here on this one as well. But Greatness in the Pain. It was there, always, in the loneliness, in the holding back of tears, surrounded, tables full of people I broke bread with often. And so how were they still strangers? How was I still there in the empty, being filled up with what I still claimed I needed to step into, but all the while it was there, in the wondering of abilities being true, Could I truly rely on feelings of knowing even without knowing it was there, where I felt the most, felt it all, even felt the wishing that my constant attack from others was real so that I could quit trying to figure out if it was, and then the numbers showed up. Or maybe I imagined the combination that spoke life and power, the right path, number 8, surrounded by the wrong people, 11, saying it was all good, maybe because it tasted the pain, knew what I could cook up with one single special ingredient, or maybe the trauma, misleading, directing the misinformation, but surely, oh, absolutely, it was the next poem. Surely it was the necessary evil, the reason I can claim greatness, all wrapped up, all merry, all must. Christ, what a gift that they say I have. Straight from the North Pole, I let it rain, dear. I slay the pain here. Pages weep at my words, grateful that I brand them with my hurt because they know people will want to touch them, turn them, call them inspiration because of what they are able to hold. It was there in the defiance against the revealing of truth, truth under the guise of anger, because I'd rather be that, show that, than show you that you could actually hurt me. Because who the hell are you when I've been so good on my own without all this wonder, just me and my wonder? How dare you bring me what I didn't need more of, what I already had enough of? I mean, you read my work and it was there and I knew it. And perhaps that's why part of me felt better after conflict, because in the midst of it all, I emoted greatness, emoted standing ovations with Evernote notations that didn't flow as well when all was well. Oh no, it was only there in the doubt, in the solitude, in the breakups and emails regretting to inform me that again, I was not chosen. It was in all the bad days, all the days when Jesus couldn't weep for me, couldn't speak to me, couldn't calm me down, couldn't check my pride, when all the world could kiss my, whether I said it aloud or not, that's when it came out. Something for the world to heal to, all through the breaking of me. And now it seems my soul intentionally creates the chasms, begs for the darkness to blanket me, begs for the familiar of lonely because how comfortable it is there. Oh, how good it feels to want for nothing except a place to write this pain. And they will meet me off stage and tell me I was great. Thank you for that. Whew. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea. Greatness in the pain. Oh my goodness. But that's when but again, like I said, that's what I do. This is where I turn to, you know. And I think as a mental health clinician, I'm always wanting to tell people to find an outlet, to find your thing. And that's something that I do. And it doesn't have to be this, it can be journaling, it can be anything, but find your thing. And you never know that even though you're putting all your vulnerability onto the page and for us onto stages, how much it does actually help someone else. And I think that that's still a gift. That's still a blessing. Sometimes I have to go through that to be that, but I you know, I really hope that, you know, people at least through that understands that it's important to find that their own outlets, you know, and use their own gifts and share them because people out there need them. You know, I think all of us have gifts inside of us, but so many of us, myself included, are at risk of dying with so much inside of us because we are afraid. And I am still at a point of, you know, getting over a lot of my fears and stepping out into the world. So like, again, I appreciate you all for showing up and for being here and for supporting us. I do have, I think I got time for 2 more. So is that right, Marissa? Are you kind of keeping track? Okay. Well, you don't know how long my poems are, but I think I can make, well, you know what? I'm going to do the one that I really want to do. And in case I run out of time, you tell me after this one, Marissa, if my time is up, and that's fine. But I want to get this one in because we are celebrating Toni Morrison, Audre Lorde, and I think a lot of other just, you know, Black creators and Black women right now in this space. And so this poem I've written for after the national anthem, and it's called She's an Anthem. And it's my tribute to, you know, Black women of the world. And so I do definitely want to let you all hear this. Some of my friends that are toned in, they've already heard this before, but for the rest of you, I do hope that you like it. Oh, say, can you see her? All Black, all girl, more than magic, more like creation. For by dawn's early light, she was already there, perched in permanence, speaking light into existence. Light don't shine without her permittance. You see her, the Black woman. Don't she look like the universe? Be universe right hand, that's universe twin. You see it. Her Blackness is what so proudly you held as this nation's scar. As less than human, despite being the genesis. You remember this, how in the beginning there was darkness, birthing a million nations. She be the greatest mother. The yes ma'am on your tongue, ye to which you say amen. She is not the bruise you choose to cover up. Band-aid we need to level up, to heal, to be the mother of all there is, was, and will be, a reminder that even at your twilight's last gleaming, she will still be there, being everything, still being the only example of infinite. Is funny, isn't it? How within the very color you despise lies your entire existence, lies the truth you tried to smudge out, but Black woman be sage. Ancestral clouds of heroics to the save, still super with that Black power. Out here caked in melanin, swallowing the sun for energy, whose broad stripes shooting from her bright stars must have blindingly flagged your ignorance and ownership in the universe and her gift. Got you thinking something she birthed is yours. Got you thinking those she sent to build it is yours. Got you forgetting the hero is all Black, more than magic, the keeper of creation, cradling galaxies and nursing the offsprings of its stars. It is our Milky Ways your child craves. Black woman, been feeding you life, even through the perilous fight. She let you taste the universe, and ain't she good? Black woman, be better than raisins in your potato salad, but still, or the ramparts you watch the Black woman become a raisin under her sun, still great enough to be fruitful, fruitful enough to raise the sun, bright as it were, so gallantly streaming, yet still trying to outshine the source and the rocket's red glare of another galactic creation, another big banging Black girl whose world you'll rise and set to, the bombs bursting in air to remind you that she is to be celebrated as holiday. She reigns as royalty in your DNA. You exist as proof through the night. She is the night, the only one strong enough to hold all this chaos, strong enough to let you forget her, to let you think she don't matter, strong enough that even when she shatters, her greatness is cloned, dispersed amongst the masses who thinks the flag is still there, upon her back, upon her throat, tried to brand her because they weren't the brand of her, silence her so you wouldn't know who to pray to, tried to claim her, last name her, blame, chain, and change her, but she will always be maiden, always be the first of the last you'll answer to. Oh, say, can't you see that Black girl? She be the one you can't close your eyes to, behind eyelids, looking a lot like peace, like she who lay you down to sleep. She be your guide, your left, your right. She be colonel. She in command. She enter, you stand. It's presidential era. Michelle and Barack. Black girl be this real rock. You see her. All star spangled across the banner of your origin, with so much more magic yet to wave upon the born again. This girl be born again, the greatest replica o'er the land. From the roots of her toes, the trunks of her thighs, hair like crowns of trees, and gravity it defies. Black girl be poetry. Still, she rise out of the drudgery of your dismissal, turning corruption into life. God in human form, God be Black as night and no ways tired. She's Negro spiritual, the hymn to sing you free, breaking every chain. She be all the strength you need. She be always surviving, keeper of the souls, does what no man can, knows what no man knows. Yes, she's an anthem, the song of the land she gave. This is hers, home of the Black woman. She be the brave. That's it, y'all. And I think that took me right at my time. So thank you all for having me. I hope that you all enjoyed.
You killing them. You killing them.
What can I say? That was amazing. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing again your words and your art with us. Amazing. We will close the performance portion of the evening with Cass. Kasaundra Cass, also known as Cass Poetess. Kasaundra Hamilton is a Texas native. As a mother of three, Cass vowed to make sure her children would never have to face the demons she's faced and would always know their voices mattered. She has applied that very belief onto herself through her poetry. Cass believes her poetry is more than just entertainment. What she offers is what she likes to call poetic therapy. Of her work, she says, I want to connect and entertain people, but mainly I want to use my words to help people get out of themselves, out of their comfort zones. There's something in my words powerful enough to save a life. So with that, please help me welcome Cass, poetess.
Hello, hello. Let's unmute there. Thank you very much, Marissa. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to start tonight off with a Toni Morrison poem called It Comes Unadorned. It comes unadorned, like a phrase, strong enough to cast a spell. It comes unbidden, like the turn of the sun through hills or stars and wheels of song. The jeweled feet of women dance the earth, arousing it to spring. Shoulders broad as a road bend to share the weight of years' profiles, reach the distance and lean toward an ordinary kiss, bliss. It comes naked into the world like a charm. And I thought that that was short and sweet and just very beautiful in the way it just painted a very simplistic, serene picture. So now for my first piece, it's called Representation. And I actually wrote it after the inauguration. So Kamala Harris, the first African American woman vice president, the first Asian American woman vice president. Conspiracy says, why they gotta point out she's Asian? Racist says, why they keep saying she's Black? Bigot says, do they have to remind us it's a woman? Precisely. See, it's because of all that someone will always be negative. Someone will always have something to say, but won't acknowledge what representation means until they see the first of themselves on that stage. Hatred will leave the ignorant afraid. No matter how many blended families are shown having dinner together on TV screens, no matter how many ads welcoming their child home comes with rainbows, trans pink and blue hues, drag queens just breathing, different people just being. Those are the things, those are the reasons. It's not about hidden agendas, trying to corrupt or convert. It's about healing, inclusion, sharing, showing pride, not about hatred or hurt. You can't understand what it truly means until you see someone with your gender, your skin tone, your quote unquote flaws and passions and dreams, until you see your image reflected, honored, respected, embraced, not rejected, standing tall while walking a mile in your shoes, giving glimpses of hope, showing that not all doors are closed, that this life can hold possibilities for you, that all dreams can come true, and that you are not alone. So we will keep saying it until they realize representation can mean the world to someone when the reflection presented matches your own. That was my first. Thanks for the snaps. And since we are spending a night talking about beautiful, powerful Black women and authors, I was asked a little while ago for a show to write a Black poem. So I wrote one, and it's called A Black Poem. They told me to write a Black poem, and I said, I am one. Ain't other curves and bends of life that we mold, reshape to fit in? Ain't other poster child of the poor little Black girl marking off all of the boxes on the trauma checklist? Collected more have you ever experienced than a Girl Scout has badges on pointless stashes? But rather than wallow, wade in sorrowful waters, I chose to be goddess. God mirrored creation and run across them. They said, write a Black poem. So I'ma just stand here with thick legs, strong back to carry the weight of the world, dripping and meddling, sun-strengthened Black skin. I am the mother who sacrifices her last to make sure my children and their children's children have more than I ever had. I am the one who hits the books harder, pushes myself to go farther, the one who honors the ancestors set upon my altar, passing their stories down to my son and daughters, making sure that they know we were more than just slaves, lambs led to slaughter. and that our skin being Black doesn't give right to place targets on our back. Make sure that they know Black Lives Matter is more than a campaign slogan, a ploy to get t-shirts sold, and demanding justice is not just a fad, it's an ongoing struggle. Thoughts led by our moms and dads. They said, write a Black poem. So I write this. While I raise my fist, the voice they tried to silence, I will not quit. I press onward and upward like the gravity-defying strands of our hair. I continue to make a way out of no way because there is always one there. Set your focus to it. Go beyond the mountains of ignorance and hate. Go under it, around it, climb it, beat it. Remember, there is power in your Blackness, Panther. They know it and they fear it. Greatness echoes in every word we utter, so make sure that they hear this. They told me to write a Black poem, and I say easy, I am one. There's that one. Thank you, thank you. And so I want to do another one. The thing that I love about both of these women and being so strong and being so unapologetically themselves, especially Audre Lorde, being Black woman, activist, lesbian, those are all things that are true and resonate to myself. So before I start this last piece, I'd like to do a quick quote by Audre Lorde, and it says, "Your silence will not protect you." And that's what I say and I try to do with my writing. I consider my poem as a form of therapy for myself and others to start conversations and healing. Myself, I am a Black lesbian author. I had a Southern mother who had a problem with a couple of those. And luckily we came to terms before she passed, rest in peace. But this poem is basically a conversation discussing how I felt about some of her issues with me, how my appearance was, how my lifestyle was, because she loved me with suggestions, and I just kind of wanted to be myself. So here we go. This is called Better Off Straight. How dare I think that I can be beauty naturally, or that this restlessness that sprouts in my head can be seen as something queenly? How can I look myself in the mirror and see anything more than Miss Celie? Aunt Jemima, picking any unclipped, unclean, shame on me, the sheer audacity. You know, you ain't never gonna get no man if you keep looking like one. Oh, my bad, I forgot. I'm supposed to be spending my rents in a beauty salon or my car note on the high hopes of finding my Boaz, my king, just so I can end up with a man who ain't trying to see the real me. Oh, I would be so much better off if I just went straight. Okay, Ma, I may be your child, but let's get this right off the gate. I ain't going nowhere near back to that creamy crack just to suit you, just to prove that I am your ideal of beautiful, straighten up to make you more comfortable because this life I'm living. No, because this breath I was given has taught me that the key to my happiness does not rest in that PCJ box that you bought me. That's more like the master's way of telling us who we're supposed to be, you know, laid, shamed, tamed, broken like stallion. I am supposed to be your child, but you want me to make it easier for them to ride me? Mama, you lied to me. Pulled me and my coils into submission like I'm meant to be lied down, stepped on, taught me I am doormat. I am servant, not to be confused with anyone in a queen's position, but look at me. This rat's nest is my crown. It stands tall with regalia, with coils abound, accentuating my shoulders. You know, the feminine ones. The ones attached to the back that has taken your wax, your wrath, your insult, your disappointment. The same one of that little girl, head between your legs, popped when she asked you to stop. When those toxins penetrated her virgin scalp like invading colonizers, when she begged you not to let that white demon semen seep in and impregnate her impressionable mind with their beautiful lies, when she cried out to you, Mama, it's hurting me, wash it out while I am still crying. Mama, it's hurting me, wash it out, wash that disgust for me out your mouth, wash that disdain for me and my lover out your eyes until your tears run as pure as spring waters. When you look at me, remember, I am your daughter. Ain't I a reflection of you? Now I'm asking you to see me as I am, still beautiful the way God made me, still dark and lovely without silken strands, on my own, not attached to a man, because neither should define me, neither make me any less or any more. Now see me and my hair as reflections, honoring those who came before. See me and your granddaughters as the queens that we are, descendants of African plain. Our hair, proud reminder of the blood that flows through our veins. Know that when I say I love her, I do not feel ashamed. And finally, acknowledge the fact that beauty, love, and I are naturally one and the same. Whew, okay. So yes, thanks for the snaps. I love that piece. If I have time, I have one short more to wrap it up that I think would put me out on a great note, honoring these women who use their voices to leave a beautiful impression and legacy. And you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. You never know what your words can mean to someone else. So I wrote this last piece after a young lady stopped me after a show that I really didn't think I put my best into, but it meant the world to her. So she reminded me. She reminded me of why I write, of how the darkness almost drowned out my light, or how I hurt so bad sometimes that I wanted to scream, but I was a child, insignificant, and no one was listening, except for my paper. At first, angry letters and suicide notes. Then the things I never dared dream of, like love, happiness, and hope. I felt like God had forsaken me. I'd never have those things. So I wrote. And not for anyone else's ears, just to release some of the pressure that had been building for years, and not so I could kill it at slams, just so I could get free of the countless hands that were still on me, of the souls that held their grip. So I wrote away every little secret, each dirty little kiss, all the things I couldn't cope with. See, writing was my escape. Writing kept me focused. Because my granny said you could only swallow down so much before you started to choke. And so I wrote this till my notebooks weren't strong enough to handle my words. So I got on a mic and I found a voice I'd never heard. And I found a strength I never knew I had as I called out my demons, their dark intentions, unforgiven sins of my mom and dad. And I wrote back my love, the ones who didn't deserve it. They might have broken my heart, but not my pen and not my voice. So while they Facebook stalking me now, I hope they listen up and they heard this. See, I almost forgot for a second. I almost let the stress, competition, and pettiness make me forget that I have a gift. But when she pulled me aside when I got off that mic, and I heard my voice utter from her quivering lips, and I saw my reflection in her glossy, tear-filled eyes, she reminded me, I write to stop the tears I cried each night. I write to give breath back to my life. I write to correct the wrongs that went on for so long. I write because the pen is mightier than the sword, and this little weak one is now strong. I could care less about your fame, fortune, or glory. I spit because someone needs to hear my story. I spit because it might be theirs. I spit because someone feels alone out there and they need to know that someone cares. She reminded me of why I write, because there's something in my words powerful enough to save a life. Thank you.
Cass, thank you. Thank you for sharing, again, your words and your art with us. That was beautiful. So now as we near the end, first I'd like to thank all three of you for sharing your work with us tonight. I'd like for us to now take some time to discuss the legacies of Toni Morrison and Audre Lorde and the connection that you may see to your own work. For all of you out there, if you'd like to participate in this discussion, please do so in the chat. If there are any questions you'd like to pose to the artists, please share them and I will pose them to the artists. So thank you. Our first question then. When were you first introduced to the work of Toni Morrison and Audre Lorde, and what struck you the most about their work?
Should I go first, or one of the other ladies want to go first? I know as soon as you finish performing, you kind of got to like, oh, deep come down a little bit. So I don't think Cash should go first. I guess I'll go first. So Toni Morrison, because I'm 39, right? But the first time I heard about Toni Morrison was on Oprah. I think she was on Oprah three times, and maybe 4 of her books made the book club. But I feel like her books were like the catalyst for the book club. And so she was featured and highlighted quite a bit. And so I remember when the movie Beloved came out, and how, it was, you hear so much through cinema, we see this narratives of enslaved people, but seeing it told from the mouth of the descendants of an enslaved person is profound, to reclaim those narratives for our own selves. And like for Oprah, it was like a breakout role for her, because she had to do this whole idea of her being a sensual, being a woman, being all these things. And so I think it's to kind of get into the answer of what it comes across as, to me, is the intersectionality of the overlap of different parts of our identities as women, the sensual side of us, the hurting side of us, the profound, the successful, the business. And we're told, like was said by other poets in our writings, like we can only be one, or we're pigeonholed into one space, but we can be all of these things at the same time. And that's not true. We can be all those things, and we don't have to be pigeonholed into one. And so that's something that I get from Toni's work. And also this tenderness her work is so tender. What I've gotten from Audre's work, I probably like 2016, probably around the same time that Beyonce's Lemonade came out. I started looking into people like Bell Hooks and other writers that speak to feminist thought. And although Audre Lorde doesn't identify herself as a feminist, she's speaking of this womanist perspective of strong women and stuff like that. And I took the idea of like the warrior, the woman that is warrior. And so the first piece that I spoke tonight of my own spoke to that, and just kind of like how womanhood can be fierce, but and then some of her thoughts on the erotic. And I find that the erotic comes up in my work, but I'm not an erotic poet. I just have sensual language in my poetry, because I believe in the idea of what's pleasing and pleasurable to the ear, and what satisfies and what gratifies listening. And I'm very turned on, not in a TMI sense, but just I'm stimulated by what I hear, like just like all people, if somebody has an annoying voice, a grating voice, you don't want to hear it. But I think about like that when I speak my poetry, like I want my voice to soothe or to ease or to excite. And I know the idea of the manipulation of the voice speaks to that. And I really feel like Audre, she had the most amazing grasp, her and people like Maya Angelou, grasp on manipulating their voice to pull and tug and speak to you and grab you in different ways. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for me, I would say I was introduced to Toni before Audre. I mean, I probably knew of them, but Toni was someone that I was introduced to her books before poetry. I mean, she's written so many books, and I probably have read half of them or more, starting with Beloved and The Bluest Eye and Tar Baby. She just has so many books, and they would pull me in. And I was an avid reader when I was a kid. I don't read as much as I should because I'm mostly writing or working, but I used to read all the time. That was one thing that I used to love to do. It was really hard for my mom to like punish me, like go to your room because I'm gonna read a book, and like who's gonna tell their kid not to read? So I win, you know what I mean? Like you just can't, it didn't matter. I love to read. And so her books would draw me in. It was so good. I remember reading Beloved so many times, and then the movie came out and I was like, so that was really my introduction to her, and just seeing people, at a young age, someone that was doing what I was really into and what I felt like I wanted to do with my own life. And then with Audre, I think it was more so of learning how she seemed to unapologetically own who she was, own, her title, own her power, own her strength. And that was really something that, again, as my poems illustrate, is hard for us to do unapologetically. It's really hard for us to do that without people pointing fingers or trying to humble us or calm us down or tell us how to be and what's professional and what isn't and all of these things. And so for me, these are the two things that was really gripping about, or the things that were really gripping about these two women, and why I was very blessed to actually be a part of this, because I'm like, these are inspirational and influential women in my life. But it came at a really young age. I would say in grade school, I was, reading Toni Morrison books, when I was really, really young. I can't even remember the age, but really, really young was when I really was introduced to the both of them. But Toni definitely had more of an influence on me. And it was just the power that Audre gave off in saying, this is who I am, and how she labeled herself. I know they say she labeled herself the warrior, the lesbian, the poet, just all of these powerful things that we could not be out loud, especially back then. I mean, we barely can be that out loud now, as Cass illustrated in her poem, right? We're still telling people, no, no, and especially not us, So that was my introduction to them, and that's why I love that we are giving, paying homage to them.
Great, thank you. Cass, do you want to share?
Yeah, like just hit most of all my points. But yeah, honestly, I was introduced to Toni first. But even in that, like, I'm 40, and where I was growing up and in schools or whatever, we weren't really brought into a bunch of Black authors. Like Black History Month was Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat on the bus, and Martin Luther King had a dream. Anything outside of that, you kind of had to go searching for yourself. And I didn't know really where to even start looking. Like, I was writing, but I didn't really have a sense of who my role model should be, or, who I should be looking up to. And then I'll say my first real introduction was Beloved. I got a hold to the book, and then the movie came out, and it drew you in and made you think so much. There were so many layers to it, and it still kind of left you questioning, well, what was real and what was there. And I love the storytelling in that. I love the writing, the depth that it pulled you in, and how many things to me it represented about, your mental state, and acknowledging your trauma, and acknowledging when you need to let things go, and give instantation, and, the church hurt and the judgment, and your own self-judgment. So I was a huge fan from then on. And oddly enough to say, as much as I relate with Audre, I didn't really even learn too much about her until like my late 30s. I didn't know. And that's about the same time I kind of came out. So as soon as I was out, then people were like, oh my God, you gotta look up Audre. Like you have so much, and I was like, oh wow, there's this powerful woman who's so unapologetically herself that it made me just kind of draw in. And so, like, given the opportunity to be a part of this tonight was perfect and spot on. And I hope that, the attendees that are here, if you don't know a lot about these women, that's fine. You're never too late to become a fan and to become inspired. Google, hit up Amazon, go on Oprah's bestseller list, and look up both of these women, and they will basically give you a how-to field guide of where to start and where to go. So I hope you start your journey tonight.
Thank you. One of our participants shares in the chat that growing up Black, it was this kind of literature, Black literature was absent and from the classroom. And she had to read a lot of the stuff outside of the classroom. And I think that's a fairly common experience for many people. Right. And this sort of emphasis on the classics, right, that fail to represent the diversity of experiences, right, that we really, share. So she asks if you believe poetry will now gain a new renaissance.
Anybody want to go first before I go launch in? Okay, I feel like it happens in waves. In any form of art happens in waves. There's a time where somebody will come along with a piece, whether it be dance, whether it be spoken word, whether it be music, and it's so transcendent and it's so mind-blowing that the world is like, what's that? And then it becomes hot for a little season, and then it'll die back down. And I feel like there's a pulse to it, and it happens over time. I wish for poets and griots and things of that nature that it never would ever take a back seat. But I think all art is relevant and necessary, but I do feel like there's timestamps when a voice emerges to the forefront for this part of the culture. It's just like Amanda Gorman is, you know, like it right now, and everybody's like, she was already doing this. She was already doing this, and the you know, poets have been speaking at inaugurations and other things, but right now it was the appointed time for her voice to come forward and be illuminated, and hopefully it opens doors for poets. And you can only and then the gentleman that won America's Got Talent, I believe, and so it's like a season where spoken word artists, the value is being placed and the light is being shined on us, and hopefully shown on us. And I hopefully, like I said, it'll keep going.
To sort of build off of that question or that sort of train of thought, what do you believe is sort of the impact of the absence of these types of literatures in our educational system? And or what could be the benefits of the more inclusion of diverse voices in teaching literature?
One of y'all go, because I'll keep talking.
I thought she was asking you to follow up on that. But I'll say, I thought she was asking you specifically.
No, for any of you.
I'll say like, as far as the impact goes, like, again, for me and for many people, okay, so I had two thoughts. And so now I'm like, which one I'm gonna go with? Okay, so let's stay where I was at. For me and for I think many people, representation, you know, we hear this quote called representation matters, right? And it's so strange to me that in 2021, we are still having the first Black whatever, right? And so I am so glad, I'm happy we still need to, but it's like, why have we been locked out so much? Why? And then even when we are doing something, there's this expectation that we still need to include mainstream, whatever that is, as if, you know, human beings altogether are not mainstream, right? So there's already an automatic assumption that we are somewhere else. We are somewhere down here. I was watching something recently with Toni Morrison. I don't know if it came across on social media, and she was being interviewed by some woman who was asking her when she's going to write work that included white people, you know, in her books and all of this stuff. And she's like, I'm talking about me, my life, my experiences. When you are reading Russian authors and they're talking about Russian culture and their lifestyle, no one expects for them to talk about, you know, American people or, you know, French people, and it's not a problem. But when we do something and it's specifically for us, by us, it's a problem. It's exclusionary, and it's and it's really not the case. It's that we don't see it. We didn't have it. As the commenter stated, in the classroom, we had to go elsewhere for it. Meanwhile, we're learning about everything else, and the underlying message here is there is no place for you. Whether people like it or not, whether it's intended or not, that's what it is. And so we do need to continue to have these kind of voices represented, this type of literature represented, because it is not just one voice or a few voices that needs to be heard and highlighted. It's all of them, and there's a place for all of it and all of us, especially I think us poets and us artists and those who are brave enough to kind of attempt to pave the way, you know. So I think that I kind of answered your question. I feel like I went off track somewhere, but anyway, yes, I do think that it's necessary.
You did not go off track anywhere in that. I think to add to that, what I would like to say, I remember when my sister was little, she would always have these books. And I remember when she was little, she was reading Moby Dick, and she was like 8 years old. And I was like, you know, I didn't know what the book was. I just know that, and I knew that my sister, like, I want to follow in the footsteps, like having a grasp on English. So there's Black American English, right, to me. And maybe, you know, what's called Ebonics, what's called whatever you want to call it. But we speak the same language, but we're not speaking the same language. And I feel like the idea of identity through language is passed through these stories, these books, our literature. And I remember hearing Langston Hughes in middle school, hearing Maya Angelou in the movie Poetic Justice, and being floored by the idea of phenomenal womanhood, that womanhood could be phenomenal. Never understood to associate this word with womanhood. And I think that's why we need Toni Morrison, we need Audre Lorde, we need anybody to associate this language with culture and heritage so that we can embrace our languages and the ways that we speak. You need Afro-Latino writers, you need Asian American writer, you need it because there's a dialect within the broader language that we all speak that is put in this genre or put in this work that they're giving you. And that's how you're going to learn it. And that's how you're going to validate and say, the way I speak is okay. The way I learn is okay. The way that I process the world is not wrong. It's not ignorant. It's not uneducated. It's not bad.
Thank you. So kind of building again, trying to tie all of these things together, I'd like to move on to the next question. Black womanhood and identity has for centuries been distorted in the national imagination. Writers such as Morrison and Lorde in many ways wrote to bring attention to and interrupt this narrative. In her essay, "The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House," Audre Lorde wrote, "Those of us who stand outside the circle of the society's definition of acceptable woman, those of us who have been forged in the crucibles of difference, those of us who are poor, who are lesbians, who are Black, who are older, know that survival is not an academic skill. It is learning how to stand alone, unpopular, and sometimes reviled, and how to make common cause with others identified as outside the structures in order to define and seek a world in which we can all flourish." So how important is this more layered and complex representation of Black womanhood to society in general and the African American community more specifically? And how have you taken on this challenge in your own work?
Yeah, I actually, oh, I'm sorry, was that okay if I went first? Okay, cool. I actually, the thought of that passage and what she broke down there, like really hit home for me. You know, I'm a poet. When I started performing, I basically was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I was like kind of fresh. So whatever the leaders in my area or the predecessors of me in my area told me, well, this is your box, this is your lane, this is what you should stay in, this is what you should spit. That's what I did, but I wasn't being true and genuine to myself. And I thought, okay, they said I'm pretty, so I should just write happy, pretty pieces. Oh, they said I'm sexy and I'm funny, so let's just write sexy, funny pieces. And I was told to not really go into depth, to not really open up, and definitely not share all aspects of myself because it was going to be detrimental to me. And I did it for a long time because I wanted to progress. I wanted to have the accolades, but I was being miserable because I wasn't being genuine to myself in my work. When my brother passed, and it's actually been 4 years ago today, but when my brother passed, a thing that he told me close to before his passing was, life is too short to be anything but yourself, and life is too short to be anything but happy. And that struck me, and it totally changed the way that I wrote, the way I presented, what I said when I said it. And I caught fallback. I lost followers, I lost fans, I lost gigs. People didn't want me to come in and do anything too Black, too emotional, too feminine, definitely not anything LGBTQ related. But I'm 41 years old. I have 3 children. I have a son. I have 2 daughters. I can't very well go through my life and tell them your voice matters. It's important. Being yourself, genuinely yourself matters. It's important. Don't let anyone put you into a box if I continue to stay into one. So when you have an author like Audre Lorde saying, this is me, this is unapologetically who I am, this is what I'm going to present, it probably was a little scary for her at that time, but she did it, and she left such a mark that it's still carrying on through legs. This is someone that's touched me. Like, this is a representation for me that it's okay to be me in the skin that I'm in. And I think that is very important, that even though it may be challenging, it may be hurtful, you may be trying to get forced into a box, but you can't stay there. If you want to progress and not just winning and being notated and being famous, if you want to win in life and not pass miserable and not being yourself, you have to be genuinely you, no matter what the cost. And hopefully, for the most part, what we're doing now is laying the groundwork for the future generations. Like, it's a rebirth of the Renaissance for the autistic and the poetic world, I think, and it's being shown on national platforms now. So this is a time to be genuinely yourself and go forward. So we're not regressing and going back to having to wait years to finally be acknowledged, and years before we're the first of something. It's 2021. It's just time to be it and move forward.
Thank you. Both Morrison and, and Cassie just alluded to this, both Morrison and Lorde wrote a lot about fear, right? Fear to speak, fear to be, fear to act. In many ways, that fear they both warned us about has been weaponized against us, against our communities, right? What do you see the role of fear in our society, both as a way to limit the self and to limit communities? And how do we forge our own weapons to combat those fears?
Jess, you want to go? If not, I can go. Okay, I want to say something because I think it's important to continue answering that question that was just posed, but it feeds into this one. To quote from the Master's Toolbox, a line that is extremely significant that I found within her speaking that essay or that piece is, difference is the raw and powerful connection from which our personal power is forged. We have to dare to be different. We have to be our authentic self. And I feel like that's our warfare. Those are our weapons, our life experiences, and recognizing that everything isn't necessarily a war. Everything isn't an attack. But if we are attacked, we have unique devices within ourselves that we've developed from our upbringing that can help us to battle and combat. For me, I was raised with literal spiritual warfare with prayer, and that's my weapon. Love is my weapon, and you have to see whatever's been instilled in you as your weapons. And when I think about my identity, how I've let it manifest in my art, this last year, I did a partnership with San Antonio Museum of Art. And in going into that, I was like, I want to show that Black womanhood is art. We are art in motion. I feel like I'm art in motion, and I'm setting these trends. And in speaking it is not only as a statement of what I am, but what I want to be. Because some days I wake up, I don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? And I think all of us have wake up and we don't feel, but we have to speak it into existence sometimes, and we have to speak by faith. And so I did a video for a song called The Nouveau. And I was like, when I went into the space of San Antonio Museum of Art, they had nude full-figured women paintings in those spaces, and I was like, I have to film in this room because I have to speak to my body type, and my body type was represented on the walls on canvas. And I was like, boom, that's a statement that I don't even have to verbally make. It's already there. I look just like this painting. My body looks like this woman's body. And I feel like what our differences, they're part of who we are. They're our anatomy, whether it be our physical anatomy or our internal anatomy of what makes us our moving parts inside. And I think that's part of our warfare.
So we are unfortunately running out of time, and I'd like to close our discussion with hope, right? In her commencement address to Sarah Lawrence graduates, Toni Morrison spoke of responsibility, happiness, and dreaming. She challenged graduates to forget about pursuing their happiness and to instead pursue dreaming. She said, "We are in a mess, We have to get out, and only the archaic definition of the word dreaming will save us. To envision a series of images of unusual vividness, clarity, order, and significance. unusual, clarity, order, significance, vividness. Undertaking that kind of dreaming, we avoid complicating what is simply simple or simplifying what is complicated, soiling instead of solving, ruining what should be revered. Dream the world as it ought to be. What is your dream? What is your hope for our collective future?
Beautiful. Answering that, it's been echoed all this time. Representation. Everybody needs to see someone that looks like them demonstrating their truths, and that will empower us all to get up and say, I can do this. Because she did it, I too can do it. Because he did it, because they did it, I too can do it. I love it.
I agree. I echo that with Andrea, is just being able to live fearlessly and walk in truth. I echo Kasaundra. I'm very inspired, by these two, both of these women, and being able to live their truth. And I think another dream is for some of these things that we speak about to actually be history, especially with everything that we're going through. I think we all spoke about Black Lives Matter and all of that. And we hear a lot that history is repeating itself when we go through some of the things that we go through as a society. And I actually made a video about it where it's like, none of this stuff has been history. We're still living a continuation of this, as made evidence by the fact that we still have the first Black things, and I'm glad that we do and we need it, but it's almost, again, very ironic, and it shows that our struggle just looks different, but we're still heavily in it. And so that is one of the dreams of mine, that we can just come together and it be the work of art that it is, not just over here in this sector, over here in that sector, but we are equal, we are included, we are, we're worthy, right? And we don't have to fight over Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, because we would automatically know. And that's the only reason that these things are born anyway, because we don't know, we don't see it. It ain't felt, it ain't shown, it's not lived, right? If it was, we probably wouldn't be having so many firsts that we do, but we are. And so that's one of my dreams, but there you go. I'll let Kasaundra go.
Thanks, Jess. Again, you hit on most of my points. I think one of my hopes and dreams is, like Jess said, I don't feel like it's history repeating itself. I feel like we're living in a time where history is constantly writing itself. This moment right now is history. Everything that we're accomplishing, every one of these firsts that are just now coming up are still going down in history books. And my hope and dream is that the works that I'm doing, the things that, my two fellow poets tonight, I hope that what we're doing goes down in the history books. And at the end of our days, when our story ends, our story continues, because we left an impact. Every day is a chance to write something in history. And my hope and dream is that what we're doing will be one of the memorable moments. And maybe we can be the first of someone else's history when they look back and they look for literature and role models. Hopefully it can be someone like us. Black authors matter.
Thank you so much again. Thank you all. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight, for your thoughtful comments and your great energy. To the performers, my eternal gratitude. Your words, your passion, your dreaming tonight has been very inspirational to all of us, reading through the comments. If you'd like more information on tonight's performers, I've included their social media information in the chat. If you'd be interested in seeing more programming such as tonight, please fill out the survey at the end of the event, and I'll put the link to the survey again in chat. You will also get an email with the link shortly after the conclusion of tonight's event. If you are a student at Alamo Colleges and would like to earn credit for attending tonight's event, please be sure to use your student email address when filling out the survey. And I'd like to close tonight with some words from Audre Lorde from her essay entitled "The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action." She writes, For to survive in the mouth of this dragon we call America, we have had to learn this first and most vital lesson, that we were never meant to survive, not as human beings, and neither were most of you here today, Black or not. And that visibility which makes us most vulnerable is that which also is the source of our greatest strength, because the machine will try to grind you into dust anyway, whether or not we speak. We can sit in our corners mute forever while our sisters and ourselves are wasted, while our children are distorted and destroyed, while our earth is poisoned. We can sit in our safe corners mute as bottles, and we will still be no less afraid. For we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own needs for language and definition. And while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us. The fact that we are here and that I speak these words is an attempt to break that silence and bridge some of those differences between us. For it is not difference that immobilize us, but silence. And there are so many silences to be broken. Mil gracias. Have a wonderful evening.
Awesome, Marisa. You did a great job.
Thank you, Marisa. Whew. Powerful. Love y'all.
So love. Thanks, guys.
Bye.